time to start the next session. The first speaker is Rajiv Karandikar from Chennai Mathematical Institute. The title of his talk is Positive Conservative Semigroups and the Markov Process.
So, happy birthday, Sundar, and I'm very happy to be here to be speaking on this occasion. I had met Sundar within a few days of me formally receiving my PhD degree, not in a convocation, but me being told that all the process for your degrees is over. And within a day of that, I had gone to Delhi to spend some time with KRP, and that's when I met Sundar first. And we became instantly good friends. Subsequently, in '84, when I returned to ISI as a faculty member, I returned to Delhi, and Sundar was at Delhi, and that was many years ago. So both Sundar and I were classified as young Turks because we were poking our nose in various administrative affairs which some others felt we should not. So long time has passed since then, and but we have, while he left Delhi soon after that, but we kept meeting now and then, and there was even an occasion when we wrote a letter to Current Science, where I had a unusual role of, toning down the anger in the letter that Sundar had drafted. Usually, it was me who would be writing something angry and others had to tone it down, but that was one occasion where our roles got reversed. So, after he moved to IMSC, yeah?
Now we've become old as.
So, when Vijay asked me to speak, I was thinking, what should I speak on for this audience? So what I thought was that I would talk about connections between Markov process and semigroups and explain the significant role played in this framework by what is known as martingale problems introduced by Strouk and Varadan, and with the hope that with the experts on quantum probability as well as free probability in the audience, maybe they may draw some analogy and think about what would be the corresponding object in their respective theory. So, quantum probability, of course, I know there is a Markov processes and such things are very much there. I don't know about free probability where there is a discussion on Markov processes or not, but nonetheless. So, if you have a one parameter semigroup acting on bounded continuous functions, say on S, where S is a complete separable metric space, I'll be confining, because I'm talking about connections with probability theory, it will be confining to the case when it's a positive semigroup, which means when function f is positive, the TT of f is positive, and conservative, so TT of 1 is 1. So, if L is the generator of this semigroup, where the domain DL is this class of functions where this derivative exists, so TTF minus F1 over T exists, and since we are working with operators and we have various choices of the sense in which one can take the limit. So let's say if we take this in the sense of sup norm on bounded continuous functions, let's say. So, so domain L is the class of functions f for which this limit exists in the sup norm sense, and then we define L of f to be G. So then L is the strong generator of the semigroup, and if instead we take the limit in bounded pointwise sense, which means this limit exists for every x, so 1 over t tt of fx minus fx equal to gx holds for pointwise, and this as a family of functions is uniformly bounded. So that is called bounded pointwise sense, and in that sense if we take the limit, then the generator is called the weak generator. There are many other choices of this topology, and of course classical results like Hilly-Yoshida theorem as to when is an operator L a generator of a semigroup, and so on and so forth. Now, in interest in probability theory is the case where the semigroup is indeed given by an integral kernel. So, the action TT on F is given by integral of F against a kernel mu t x dy. So, so you have this family indexed by t and x, and of measures indexed by t and x. Now, of course, since we are assuming that the semigroup is acting on the class of continuous functions, it puts lots of conditions on this family of measures. For example, for a fixed t as functions in x, it's continuous in the what we call the weak topology, or what Krishna called the vague topology of measures. Because only then we'll get Tt of f to be a, yeah?
What requires regularity of t going to tt?
Continuity. If we are taking the, see the, whatever topology we will take for the semigroup, for the, considering the generator. So if we are taking, working with sup norm, we should take, for each f, yeah, norm continue. And if we are working with this bounded pointwise topology, then it is enough to consider the case where t going to tt of f of x is continuous and remains bounded. So you see, this boundedness comes easy because if because our tt of 1 is 1, that means each of this should be a probability measure. So if f is bounded, then this gets, the uniform boundedness is easy to get. So then it only reduces to that t going to tt of fx is a continuous function of t for every fixed f and x. So you don't need any other continuity. Yeah, so yes. See the see, in any case you have the semigroup property. So t of 0 is identity. So then whatever continuity assumptions I impose, that will give me that it should go to identity as t goes to 0 in the appropriate sense. Now the semigroup property, that t of t plus s is equal to t of t composed with t of s, that implies that this kernel's mu t x dy satisfy this integral equation. So mu t of y and the set b, you integrate with this kernel mu s x dy, you get mu of s plus t x b. So this has a very nice interpretation in probability theory. So if we interpret mu t of yb as the probability of a particle at y reaching the set b in time t, okay, so that is what this is, probability that starting at y you reach b in time t. Then when you integrate, it means you started at x, in time s you are at some intermediate point y, and then you in time t you get to b. So that should equal starting from x going to b. Okay. This interpretation would be valid if our assumption is that once you know that you are at y, the probability of going to b is given by this kernel irrespective of how you got there. So in general, if you are talking about physical systems, this may or may not be true. How you proceed from some point onwards may depend on how you got there, the probability structure thereof. So the semigroup property means the mu should satisfy this, and therefore one can interpret mu as probability of a particle at y reaching b in time t irrespective of how it got to y. Now the second property is what is called the Markov property, that once you fix the present position, the probability law governing the evolution from then on does not depend on the history of how you got there. So the Markov property and the semigroup property get just completely intertwined, and that's why early study of Markov processes in 20s, 30s and 40s was also the time when the semigroup theory, lots of interesting things were happening, and very early on Markov process theory got intertwined with semigroup theory, and there was usage of semigroup techniques in the Markov study of Markov processes from early on. So, okay, so I was here at this point of saying that one can interpret mu t yb as the probability and irrespective of how it got there. So then one can show that for every little x in S, so this is like starting point, one can construct a probability measure on the space of all paths from 0 infinity to S, and we capital XT are taken as the coordinate mappings. That means any element here is actually a function from 0 infinity to S. So any element rho here is a function from 0 infinity to S. So we define XT of rho as rho t. It's like taking the standard coordinates in RDE and so on. So this is the coordinate mappings. And then we can construct a measure Px on this path space which satisfies. So this left hand side is simply probability. So you have points T1, T2, Tn. I should have written that they are in the increasing order, T1 less than T2 less than T3, etc. So probability that xt1 is in A1, xt2 is in A2, xtn is in An or M, this probability is given by this n-fold, n-1 fold integral. So I think this should have been n, because on the right hand side I have taken n. So from this is the probability that from yn, if you are at yn plus 1, the probability of reaching an, that integrated against from yn minus 2 to getting to yn minus 1 integrated over an minus 2 and so on. So by this construction we get we can define a measure on what could be called the cylinder sets on this path space. So it's like when we define product topology, you define rectangles. So this defines a measure on rectangles on this path space, and one can show that this measure on these rectangles can actually be extended to a probability measure on the sigma field generated by those. And then this P sub x can be thought of as describing the probability law of a particle which starts at x and evolving as per this transition function mu. Okay. So xt is said to be Markov process with transition probability function mu t xa. Now the generator L of the associated semigroup. So we started with the semigroup from where we got hold of this mu, that and so the generator of the semigroup is also called the generator of the Markov process. Now, this path space that I described earlier is too huge for useful analysis often, and early on the focus was shifted to when can we construct these measures on better path spaces or nicer path spaces. So for example, continuous functions from 0 infinity to S, or a terminology which is very standard in probability literature but not otherwise is called D0 infinity. So these are functions which are right continuous and have left limits everywhere. So they have only one kind of, only jump discontinuities, in other words, no other discontinuity. Okay, so these are regular enough paths. So under some suitable conditions on this transition function mu, one can construct the probability measures on either C or on D. And in particular, if you take S to be RD, the heat semigroup given by T0 being identity and Tt of Fx is the integral of F against the Gaussian kernel. So here the transition function mu is given by a density. So in this case, the measure P0 starting from 0 on C is called the Wiener measure. The coordinate process is called the Brownian motion, and P sub x is simply translate of the Wiener measure. For the Brownian motion or for Wiener measure, the generator L is given by half Laplacian. This is a statement which is very commonly heard, but this is not a very precise statement. More precisely, twice continuously differentiable functions with compact support are in the domain, and then for f in such a compactly supported twice continuously differentiable function, L of f is half Laplacian. So the if you really want to say what is the generator, we have to again go back to what is the topology in which we have taken the derivative and so on and so forth. And but generally whatever topology you take will always have the C20 to be part of the domain, and on that it agrees with the Laplacian. If we take L to be the weak generator, then one can actually show that C2 functions with not compact support but bounded second derivatives. Functions and with their all two derivatives are bounded. This is in the domain and it is still given by the Laplacian. Now, from Laplacian, let's move on to a second order differential operator. So the second order derivative terms have a coefficient aijx, and first order have bj's, and where ajx is let's say a positive definite matrix valued function, continuous function. So x going to aijx is continuous for every ij, and for every fixed x this matrix is strictly positive definite. So and this bj is simply a vector valued continuous function, again bounded, because my a of f I want it to be bounded. Now, so this question as to under what conditions on A can we construct a Markov process such that L is, its generator L is an extension of A. No, strictly simply means for each x, it is strictly positive definite. Yeah, because whether you non-negative and positive or positive and strictly positive. So there is always confusion about this terminology. So all I mean is that for every fixed x, this is a strictly positive definite matrix. That's all. Now, the process x, when it exists, is called a diffusion process with diffusion coefficients A and drift coefficient B. And just like Brownian motion was supposed to be model for motion of particles in free space, if one looks at motion of particles which are subject to intramolecular interactions and having an external field force, then heuristics, it was derived that it should still be a Markov process, and its generator should be something of this form. Okay? And very early on there was a lot of focus on as to for what A and B is really this a generator, or its extension is a generator of a positive conservative semigroup. Indeed, this question as to when is this A, when is this second order differential operator generator, seems to have been a focus of lot of major research themes in probability theory all through the era 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s and 70s. So early answers to these questions were based on semigroup theory and connections with partial differential equations. So then in the 40s, Professor Ito developed the theory of stochastic integration in order to answer this question, in order to construct diffusions, and he was able to do it in cases which was not covered by the PDE and semigroup theory. PDE and semigroup theory required the coefficients and their two derivatives to be Holder continuous, roughly speaking. Ito was able to construct these when assuming only that these are Lipschitz. Strictly speaking, you take the square root of A as a symmetric matrix, and that is Lipschitz. And he thus avoided the heavy dependence on PDE techniques, but that was apart, this was a starting point of an entire discipline in probability theory, which later found applications to various other things, including finance. So, but the origin of K. Ito's work was this. Now, early on it was observed that if a diffusion exists with a generator A, and I put it in inverted commas because I mean that an extension of A is the generator, then this associated family of random variables or associated process MFT. So you take f of xt, okay, and subtract from it 0 to t AF XS ds. So it was observed that this is a martingale, and I am not even put down the definition of a martingale in the standard probability language, but in a language appropriate for this audience. So, which means that this, if you look at increments in this MF, so MF of T minus of MFS, so increment between S and T on this process F, MF, then it is orthogonal to this family of functions or family of random variables, HS, which is simply the algebra of functions of G of XS, where you take the points S from the his past. Okay. So you take finitely many points in the past, you take finitely many bounded continuous functions and compose them with G1 XS1, GK XSK. With each of this increment is orthogonal. Orthogonality is in the sense of L2. Okay. Yeah? Yeah? Yes, but that means that you have not started with a region of A. Okay, so yeah, well defined. Yeah. Yeah, starting with any operator A, one could pose this problem. Yeah, and so in probability language, it means that this being a martingale means that the conditional expectation of MFT given the history up to time S equals this. But that same thing simply means that you take the increment, it is orthogonal in L2 sense to this. And here everything inside, because of the conditions I am putting, are in L2, and therefore I can talk about orthogonal in L2. When we make, if we extend this to a case where we allow, let's say, this not necessarily bounded and so on, we still would require L1. In which case we will interpret this orthogonality to mean L1 L infinity orthogonality. This HS will interpret as in L infinity, and this object in L1, then we can think of it as L1 L infinity, the interplay orthogonality. So which simply means integral of this times any of these functions is 0. And that is precisely the conditional expectation equation. So, yeah, so the connection between Markov process on one hand, its generator on the other hand, and martingales, this connection had been noted earlier and was the basis for something called the Dynkin formula. Okay. So this had been observed earlier, and indeed Doob had shown that Ito's original work, which required very deep analysis and lots of estimates, could be simplified a lot by using this tool which Doob had developed called martingales. So and this connection was apparent in that work. So in around 67 this paper appeared. So Strouk and Vardhan observed that given A, now at this particular point I am still in the specific case of the A being the second order differential operator. Okay. So Strouk and Vardhan observed that if you fix the coefficients, so that fixes this differential operator A, if for every x, that is for every starting point, there exists a unique probability measure Px on this nice path space, such that the measure sits on the portion which begins only on paths which begin at x, and what I call the martingale condition, that means MFT minus MFX is orthogonal in HS. Okay. So the Strouk-Vardhan observation was that for the differential operator, if you get uniqueness of this probability measure Px, there exists one such and that it is unique, then Tt of fx defined by this, so you take f of xt and integrate with respect to the dp measure, that gives a semigroup, and its generator is an extension of A, and this is the unique semigroup whose generator is an extension of A. Okay. So the problem of when does A give rise to a unique generator, when is extension of A a generator and whether that generator is unique, that problem gets transported to uniqueness of this probability measure Px. And one may say that, okay, one uniqueness problem gets transported to another uniqueness problem, but here there is a lot more structure and a lot more tools available various kinds of transformations, including stochastic integral, martingale techniques, and various estimates are available. So it gives some new tools in order to attack this question of uniqueness. And just like the Brownian motion has connection with Laplacian, and there is connection between Brownian motion and solution to differential equations involving Laplacian, the Dirichlet problem, and so on and so forth. Likewise, there are connections between the Cauchy problem for a differential operator and this existence of these probability measures, which I have not put down on slides. But that prompted, the connections with Cauchy problem is what must have prompted Strouk and Verdun to call this as a martingale problem. So they said that a measure Px on C is a solution to the martingale problem for the operator A if these conditions 1 and 2 hold. Okay. Martingale problem for A starting at X, and where is A appearing? A is appearing in this definition of MF. So that is what they said, that martingale problem is to find a measure P which satisfies these two conditions, and if for every X you have existence as well as uniqueness, then it is called well posed.
Is there some condition here that allows you to verify that it is martingale?
No, you start with A and you are trying to construct a measure P so that this is a martingale.
No, I know.
Yeah?
Suppose I start with the A.
Huh.
Is there any way I can figure out what I get to the
Anyway, you can figure out whether there will exist at all a okay. No, so many things are known, this being a restriction of a generator which is positive and so on and so forth. So, for example, it should satisfy the maximum principle, it should be dissipative. Whole lot of properties about this A are known. So, if one of those doesn't hold, you know a priori that it is a bad case. Okay. So, and in fact, Strouk-Verdun showed the following, that so their work required this A to be uniformly elliptic. Yeah, but Ito's thing, which requires Lipschitz, does not require uniform elliptic. In fact, he only wanted non-negative definite. So there are, but for Strouk-Verdun theory, you need the A to be uniformly elliptic. So there is a delta such that for all real numbers, so here it should have been a X. So uniformly, the eigenvalues of Aij matrix are bounded below by delta uniformly. Then A is a continuous function with at most quadratic growth, and B is measurable with at most linear growth. So this they did not do it the first step. The first they had only bounded A and B continuous. Later it has been extended to allow A to have quadratic growth and B to have linear growth. But under these conditions, it is shown that the martingale problem is well posed. For A is well posed, where A is of course again the second order differential operator. So from Holder continuity to Lipschitz, Ito's work, and from doing away with Lipschitz, only requiring continuity in this and measurability in this is Strouk-Verdun theory. And uniform ellipticity for well posedness of martingale problem. I am okay, maybe because but interestingly, the Strouk-Verdun work, the uniqueness is actually a throwback to PDE theory. So Ito tried to draw it away from PDE theory, and Strouk-Verdun work heavily uses the PDE techniques and the estimates thereof, and that is where this uniform ellipticity arrives. So if there is some work which avoids this, then it may be again going back in a different path. I am not aware. So I should look at that. So in general, the weak generator L is an extension of A, and then writing, so let us write mu t of B to be, you compute the probability of xt belonging to B starting at x and then integrate with mu 0. Okay. So it is like if you start with the initial distribution mu 0 and run the process up to time t, where will you be? So that is this measure mu t. So it can be shown that mu t satisfies this, what we may call an evolution equation. So integral of f d mu t is integral of f with d mu 0, and the increment is given by integral 0 to t integral LF d mu s ds. So this equation corresponds to the semi-group the equation Tt of f is equal to f plus integral 0 to t Ts LF ds. So that translates to this. Now, one difficulty in using, so in probability theory, for example, given the generator L, it is of interest to characterize or get hold of something handle which will tell me how mu t is going. Okay. So in order to use this equation, the class of, if we think of it as an equation with a test function, so the class of test functions is domain of L. But in general, it is often difficult to get concrete description of domain L. Even in nice cases where you have second order differential operator with some smooth coefficients, even then getting hold of the full description of the domain is difficult. So in a sequence of papers, starting with Echeverria, who was a PhD student of Varadan, and then Tom Kurtz, and in this area me and Abhay, but we have also contributed, it has been shown that when under the Stroop-Wardhan conditions on the operator A, when the martingale problem is well posed, indeed this equation, now I have replaced L with a A, and I have also added one perturbation term. So this equation where the test functions now are from domain A, and remember domain A is something which we start with, A and domain A, so we choose. Okay. So this equation also admits a unique solution. So this with, if f in domain L, it admits a unique solution that comes from semi-group theory, but you using Stroop-Wardhan techniques, if one shows that restricting the test functions to the class of domain A, this one still has a unique solution, and indeed the unique solution is given by, you have the distribution of this process at time t and weighted by what we may call the Katz functional, which Katz thought of based on Feynman's work on the Feynman integrals. So, so this term has the effect of adding a potential there. And as I already said, the significant aspect here is that the test functions are required to be in domain A rather than domain L. Now, again in the Stroop-Wardhan framework, actually one can show that these measures mu t have a density Pt, and so this evolution equation which I had written translates to this. I replaced mu t by pt dx, and I have written in a differential form. So formally this equation can be written as this differential equation. Del pt by del t equal to a star pt, a star being a formal adjoint. Yeah, the Chapman-Kolmogorov equation. And the interesting thing is that from the semi-group theory one can't deduce that this has a unique solution, but once you have come to use the Stroop-Wardhan well-posedness, just from that technique one can show that this admits a unique weak solution. And likewise the perturbed equation. You see G bound, you don't see interestingly here you see that it is e power some integral of G. So if G the lower, you see when you about A, you see I have started only with bounded continuous functions, but those things one can extend in many different ways. Okay, we can define function classes so that you can bring in unbounded G into your picture so that you can still talk about the generator and so on. But the bounded above one can't get rid of for this reason. Now, I come to a few minutes, but I'll come to general definition. So till now I talked about this connection in the specific context of A being a second order differential operator, but this connection is deeper and one can do in more generally. So here I've just put down what do you mean by a process. So process is just a family of random variables, or which are family of measurable functions. Now one important thing is if you have two such families of random variables or Stroop processes, we say that they are equal in distribution if these two are equal. So you take G1x, I think super X here are missing, or I should have removed it here. So this is the sense in which equality of two processes is concerned. And then very generally, if you are given some subdomain of bounded continuous functions, a linear space and a linear mapping A, one can pose a problem as to when does there exist a process X such that it's a martingale, MFT is a martingale, namely MFT minus MFS is orthogonal to HS. MF is again given by the same. Okay? And so this time I am not restricting to A being a differential operator. At this level of generality, we say that this martingale problem is well posed if for every initial distribution mu 0, you have a unique process X such that such that it's a martingale. And uniqueness is in the sense of if two of them have solutions which have the same initial distributions, then they are equal in distribution. And at this level, if one assumes that very minimal things, the domain A is an algebra which strongly separates points and contains constants, then well-posedness of a martingale problem implies that the solution is a Markov process, you will have a generator, and that generator is a extension of A. And this thing involves a lot of things about setting up right kind of spaces and proving measurability. One of the difficulty is that when we talk about well-posedness of a martingale problem, we are talking about for every fixed measure initial condition, we want one measure. But then we want that these things are interwoven to each other in a measurable fashion, and that turns out to be one of the most difficult questions in resolving these issues. But so that was Abhay, me and B.V. Rao, we did one final piece of work which put paid to some of the early work that I had done with Abhay. Further, if for a probability measure mu, integral AF d mu is 0 for every f in domain A, then mu is the invariant measure for the associated semigroup, or integral LF d mu is 0 for every f in domain L. So when this problem for A is well posed and gives rise to a semigroup TT with generator L, this for all f also implies this. Now, the fact that in the given framework this this orthogonality relation is implying this makes one wonder if indeed A is a core for L. That means the graph of A, its closure is the graph of L. And indeed, 20 years ago I thought that must be true and spent about 3 or 4 years trying to prove that, though I was advised against that by various experts that it is not going to be true. Eventually we have found an example to show that it is not so. Earlier Strouk had told me that I am telling you that I have an example, but it is too complicated, it is not worth time spending on. Just have faith in me when I say I have an example. So now we have an example which is simple enough. So this says that in a sense there may be multiple extensions of A which are generators of semigroup, but only one of them is a generator of a positive semigroup. You see, initially if I put A1 to be 0 I include, then it will imply that L1 is 0 and therefore conservative I will get, but it may not be positive. So there may be multiple extensions of A which are generators which are generators of semigroups, but only one of them is a semigroup, positive semigroup.
You may have an infinity of positive semigroups.
No, positive semigroup only one I get.
But I know, example, if you have infinite, one family of positive semigroups, out of which one only is conservative.
Okay, but then that will not fit in this framework, because conservativeness I can deduce by just including 1 in my domain of A and requiring that A1 is 0. That will give me the extension L1 is 0, so TT of 1 is 1. So they will not fit in this framework. Yeah, but what you say is true. If we don't put A1 equal to 1, then we may get that, that only one of them is conservative, others are not. So here in my example what happens is that while I have a signed measure mu such that integral AF d mu is 0 for every f in domain A, but there is a function f such that LF d mu is not 0. So the problem or whatever is the interesting part is about this positivity rather than the other way. So it can also be shown that the distribution of that solution satisfies this corresponding to this Chapman-Kolmogorov equation, or this is a general version thereof, once again for every f in domain A, and that this equation admits a unique solution. So from the uniqueness of the process on this much bigger space, we get something concrete about uniqueness of solution to such an equation. And the same thing with a perturbation thereof. So just one slide, that the conditions on boundedness and continuity of AF that I had imposed can be significantly diluted. Continuity, even describing it is very complicated, but boundedness, for example, can be replaced by the following, that there exists one continuous function phi such that the growth of AF is always controlled by this function phi. So AFX is less than equal to constant which may depend on F times phi of x. So this one can be used to replace the boundedness condition. A is now a general matrix, general operator that I am starting with. Yeah, so in the diffusion context, second order operator, but more generally in terms of when I am talking of an abstract space, any operator A for which I am posing a martingale problem. This is my last slide. So one can also consider martingale problems for nonlinear operators. So they correspond to physical systems which are evolving with interactions, and one can still talk about the associated evolution equation, martingale problem, Markov process, something which was called by McKean to be nonlinear Markov process. And this connection can be used to indeed prove uniqueness of solution to the associated nonlinear equation. And this was done, for example, in the context of Boltzmann equation for specially homogeneous case without angular cutoff, and that was again many years ago with Horowitz. I had done this work. So to sum up, using martingale problem techniques, one is able to characterize these Markov processes and get questions of uniqueness about this evolution equations associated with the semigroup. One is able to answer them by talking about uniqueness of the associated processes. So the semigroup, the generator, and the evolution equation are living on this. These are operator theory language. From there, you lift these questions to this path space and martingales and so on and so forth. You can use techniques there to conclude uniqueness, and then come back here and deduce that there is uniqueness of the thing which you started with. So let me stop here.
So any question, comments? Okay. So if there is no, then let's thank the speaker. And we have a 7 minutes break.